appeal. Blinken says he expressed Washington's commitment to finding a peaceful resolution to last month's military takeover. The coup leaders have refused diplomatic appeals to return to civilian rule. Charles Stratford has more now from Dakar in Senegal.
The streets of Niger's capital, Niamey, remain calm, but the military coup leaders show no sign of backing down. Instead, announcing more new officials to replace the government of democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum, who they have held in detention since July the 26th.
The President of the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Homeland, Head of State, decrees Article 1, Mr. Lamine Zain Ali Mohammed, is appointed Prime Minister.
All diplomatic efforts at finding a peaceful solution to the crisis have so far failed. In its latest response, the military junta said it had refused entry to a delegation from the African Union, the UN, and the regional bloc ECOWAS because of security concerns. This only hours after the acting US Deputy Secretary of State, Victoria Nuland, said she had held 2 hours of difficult talks with the self-appointed defense minister and had been refused access to Niger's detained leader. The US says it still remains hopeful diplomacy can work.
The window of opportunity is definitely still open. We believe that the junta should step aside and allow President Bazoum to resume his duties tomorrow, anytime in the near future.
ECOWAS is struggling to pull together a military force comprised of soldiers from member states which it has threatened to use as a last resort in a potential military operation to reinstate the deposed Nigerian president. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu is the new chairman of ECOWAS. Nigeria, with by far the biggest army in the region, would be expected to take the lead in any such military operation. But President Tinubu is facing opposition from Nigerian MPs, including those in his own party and his people, who fear the considerable risk of sparking a wider regional war. And if that were to happen, it could lead to a deterioration in the already difficult fight against armed groups like Boko Haram, ISIL and Al-Qaeda.
We have multiple levers on which we can leverage to achieve the end that we are seeking to achieve, which is to uphold the ECOWAS protocols by ensuring that there is a return of civilian democratic rule under the leadership of President Bazoum.
The refusal by Niger's coup leaders to allow entry into the country by a combined United Nations, African Union and ECOWAS delegation comes 2 days before a second emergency ECOWAS summit on the crisis. It's expected the focus of that summit will be discussions about a potential last resort military solution. The diplomatic avenues are still open, but there are fears that they are becoming increasingly slim. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera, Dakar.
Well, the US State Department has given more details on the call between Antony Blinken and the ousted Niger President Mohamed Bazoum.
I will speak to the conversations the Secretary has had with President Bazoum, and in those conversations, the Secretary has, number one, looked for an assessment of the situation from President Bazoum. Number two, he's been checking on his safety and his health and the health and safety of his family. And number three, he has been assuring him that we support the return to the constitutional order, and that is the position of the United States, and that is what we are trying to work towards. All right, I promise.
Is the U.S. still in a position of not calling what's happening in Niger a coup?
It is at this point an attempted military takeover, but again, we are still working to achieve a different outcome, and we are hoping to see President Bazoum released from house arrest and able to resume his duties.
As we heard there, members of the West African bloc ECOWAS will be gathering in Nigeria's capital on Thursday. Well, let's get more on this now with Ahmad Idris, who's in Abuja. Ahmed, what can we expect from this meeting tomorrow then, given that the coup leaders have shown no sign of ceding power?
Well, basically, a lot of people expect the leaders to stick to the diplomatic solution, to allow it more time. But again, we expect to see more sanctions coming into effect. Whether or not that will succeed, it's not clear at the moment, but we are hearing right now that inflation has gone through the roof in Niger Republic. Electricity has been cut off, so a lot of people are out of jobs, especially small jobs that depends on electricity to generate income. So leaders will try to leverage on that. They will try to squeeze Niger more and more tightly so as to gain some kind of concessions from the coup leaders. However, it's looking increasingly clear that diplomatic solutions may not resolve this crisis anytime soon. Military option, Nigeria says, is still on the table. Some sources even have gone far to say that the troops on this side of the border are ready in case there is an order or a go from the military, from the heads of state in the region. So the meeting tomorrow will basically look at developments since the last meeting here in Abuja, whether or not they will allow more time for diplomatic solutions. But that diplomatic solution is increasingly looking unlikely at the moment.
And what about then divisions within ECOWAS itself over what should happen going forward?
Well, among the member states, whether or not there are divisions, these have not been sort of underlined clearly or in public. There are some countries who will not participate in any military action against Niger. And even Nigeria, the largest contributor of forces, there are divisions within the community, within the Nigerian community. People are mostly against any military action in Niger. But again, for ECOWAS, what options are there? Sanctions? Well, sanctions have not worked in Mali, sanctions have not worked in Burkina Faso, and they're also not working in Guinea. So basically, the only option for many of the heads of state angling for a quick resolution of this conflict will be the military option. But who is going to fund these military activities in Niger? Basically, these countries are really going through a tough time economically. They cannot, at the moment, devote a lot of funds away from development projects to a military action in Niger Republic. But a lot of political analysts in the region we've spoken to says the ECOWAS has already shot itself in the foot since the beginning. Since the coup in Mali, it was dilly-dallying, putting sanctions and lifting sanctions. And some people believe that the presence of technical advisors, military advisors from Mali and Burkina Faso, especially in Niger at the moment, is sort of making the Niger coup leaders more and more stubborn. So basically, they don't expect to see any resolution through diplomatic means, because these two countries realize that if Niger is resolved quickly, then there will be more pressure on them to relinquish power to civilian administrations in Mali and Burkina Faso and probably Guinea as well.
OK, Ahmed, thanks for that update. Live for us from Abuja. Thank you.